This is the Alchemy Workshop, and today I'm going to be going over using scrap metal, whether it be for various blacksmithing projects or for making knives. I'll put them in kind of two different categories. This is my experience from it, so if I say something you don't agree with or I'm wrong, feel free to let me know. I am a beginner, so you're not going to hurt my feelings, unless you're an asshole about it. But you're not going to hurt my feelings either. I see a lot of times in Facebook groups, especially in for bladesmithing, people asking like, "Is this good to make a knife with?" Some scrap metal, and the typical answer is just buy known steel, which it's sure, but for me, when I'm starting out, I don't, I'm not that confident that I'm just going to make known steel into a blade that I'm happy with. I could really screw it up and just waste money. Using scrap metal, I have plenty of material to work with, and I've had luck with it. There's some things that you're gonna have better chance of success with for scrap metal. But for just basic blacksmithing things, if I'm making whatever fire pokers, this is from rebar, and you see it's rebar, but it looks pretty cool. I'll sell these on Etsy. I bought square stock. It's not expensive, but when you're learning, you run through the stuff pretty fast, and if you screw things up, it's kind of like, ah, shit, I just wasted money. So having a lot of material is always nice. It gives me I have a lot of scrap metal bins where I can kind of think like, what do I want to work on, and look through it, and it gives me an idea. So as far as just like making something like, decorative hooks or something that you don't have to harden, your best bet is, if you can, go to your scrapyard. I know some people in the States say the scrapyards don't allow them to go in there, or like safety has or something. Here in Germany, I haven't lived in the States for over 20 years, but here in Germany I started going to the scrapyard here, and it's awesome. I think they charge 20 cents a kilo for whatever you take. And I'll go find all sorts of material to work with. And I also find tons of tools, like awesome tools that there's nothing wrong with except a bit of rust on them, which, soak it in some vinegar and wire wheel and it's fine. I mean, I found tons of hammerheads. All my hammers, I think, came from the scrapyard. I bought a few, but the rest came from the scrapyard. Even like a really nice, I got two of these last time I was there, flathead hammers. I had to put the handle on, but shit, these can cost a pretty penny sometimes. I find everything there. It's amazing some of the tools I find there. Tons of pliers, like old school pliers that are made way better than the crap they make today. That were just, they're rusted. Some are frozen shut, so soak them in vinegar and clean them up. And I mean, these are so much better than the crap you buy lately that they make now. I could do a whole video alone on just stuff I found at the scrapyard as far as tools go. It's never ending. And I mean, even the last time I was there, I found this crescent wrench, old crescent wrench, cleaned it up a little bit. Not too concerned about it being clean because I use it as a twisting wrench because I don't have a twisting wrench, and this works pretty damn good. Also, it's convenient to have a big crescent wrench. But back to the scrap metal. I mean, if I'm doing just projects that I don't need to harden, you find rebar galore. There is a mountain of rebar there, all different sizes and diameters. I even picked up like this huge one, which that's going to be a lot of hammering, but I don't know. I'm sure I'll find a use for it. As far as when you want to use something for making a knife that's hardenable, it's going to be hit and miss. Before you waste a lot of time. And the way I looked at it, sometimes I'm working with the metal and I'm just wondering, is this going to harden? I don't know. The last thing I did actually like that was an old saw blade. And saw blades are questionable because newer ones, it's just the outside, the teeth that are high carbon steel, and the inside's it's not hardenable. So they had a huge pile of these big saw blades there. And I grabbed one, and then I saw this other one that looked older. So I was like, let's go with the older ones, because older ones usually are high carbon. I got this one, and I cut through where it's actually in the handle. It's hidden now with the knife. But when I cleaned it up a bit, right here was a logo, and it said Lennox, which is an old German brand, and they make very good saw blades. So before I went ahead, actually this is my first time doing just a stock removal knife. I have it just right here. And that came from this saw blade. So that was my first time doing stock removal, so I didn't know how it was going to turn out. So I didn't really care if it was good steel or not. I just wanted to practice that, you know, because I'm not the best with an angle grinder. So I went ahead and cut out the design, and then I cut off a small piece, and this is what I suggest to do if you're working with a questionable unknown metal. Cut off a small sample, doesn't have to be big, just something like this. Heat it up beyond magnetic, get it nice and hot, quench it. For this I just quenched it in water. Put it in a vise and hit it with a hammer, and it broke like glass, and the grain was beautiful. It was like a really nice grain. So I was like, okay, I think this is good. Also the sparks. Reading what we call spark test. Take an angle grinder or a bench grinder and look at the sparks. High carbon has a different spark pattern. I have a chart somewhere. If I find it, I'll try to put it in the video. If not, you can look it up. You can find charts. And there's videos on spark tests. It's not that easy though. I mean, even people that are very experienced can have a hard time telling. But it's easy to see if it's mild steel or, you know, if it has some carbon in it. But it's hard to tell. You can't identify what exact kind of steel it is. So it could still be a question about how do you harden it, how do you quench it. But if you can test it on a piece and you're able to quench it in oil, canola oil, or whatever you have means of doing, and it hardens, then that's a good start. Just be prepared, you know. You might just be getting practice and end up with a piece that is not holding an edge, but it was good practice and it didn't cost you anything. And you can put it on the wall for a decorative piece, whatever. But some of my go-to things that I've had luck with are coil springs from cars. They're not all the same metal though, but if you have one that's good, and I've made several knives out of this, and the blades are good, and I know I can heat treat it. I can quench it and harden it, and yeah, it works. So I can make quite a few knives out of these. They are a pain in the ass to unbend and hammer out, but the more you do it, the faster you get with it. Another really popular go-to one is leaf spring, and yeah, this one I've made a couple knives out of, and it's pretty damn good steel. You don't know exactly what it is. Maybe it's 5160. I don't know. But I know I can quench it in oil, and it hardens and holds an edge and makes a nice knife. It's pretty thick. I have some thicker ones. They're really thick, which I'm afraid to even work with them. That's going to be so much damn hammering. Even this, it's a lot of hammering, but it works, you know. Would it be easier to buy a thinner piece to my stand to just, you know, do stock removal of a known steel? Of course. But this cost me maybe 20 cents, you know, so no harm there. Other common ones to go to are old files. Old. The new ones are only like case hardened, so they, you know, if you're not sure, cut a small piece off and test it. I've got a blade I started to make out of one of these old files. I have not finished it, just watched it forge so far and a little bit of grinding. And it is it will harden. It's good steel. Other random ones, let's see. I have not tried this yet, but a knife maker I know that is very good and very experienced told me big Allen wrenches, Allen keys. Those are good to use. I have so much stuff around that I picked up. And some, you know, I don't know if it'll work. In some, I know it'll work, but not that great. You know, things like old wrenches. That's not going to make a great knife, but you can make cool things out of it. So, like tomahawks are pretty common to make out of these. Throwing knives could be an option. There's some things people ask a lot about, like horseshoes. That's not going to be, that's mild steel, but you can still make cool things out of them. I found this, whatever it is, steel ball. I don't know what it is, but weld on a piece of square stock, and I have a nice Hardy tool. There's tons of stuff I go through my scrap piles. Another common one I see brought up all the time, which I have a couple because I found them at a second-hand shop. This cost me $3. They're lawnmower blades. we don't know what this is, so you don't know. Best, they're not made to be hard, because if you hit rocks and shit like that, you know, it doesn't want to chip the blade. So it's not going to make a great knife blade. It can make a good machete or a parang, so that's a future project. I got a couple I picked up for a couple bucks, so it wasn't a big deal. If you're looking for stuff specifically for blades and you're new to making blades, I wouldn't shun that off too much of using scrap metal. Once you find a piece that you know is good, like I have this big saw blade, so I could probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, another good like 7 blades out of this, I'm sure. And I know the steel is good, and I know I can harden it. Same with the coil springs. I have a couple off my BMW that are a bit thicker, so I can make bigger blades. And that one I just showed you, someone gave to me, and it was also working quite well from what I've experienced with it. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you can see the brand name on it and look up, and you might be able to contact the company and find out what kind of steel it is. They know more about how to go about heat treating it, etc. Other things I come across pretty commonly there at the scrapyard. Unfortunately, I think it's closed now because of the COVID shit. I love going to that place. Are old axe heads, because I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with this. This one has a crack down the center. I gotta get some practice with welding, so that's a good project to practice my welding. Fix that up, cut it out, make a bearded axe out of it. Might do some electro etching on it, which I'm new with electro etching. I've finally got a setup that's working pretty good, so if I screw it up, no big loss. And also, I mean, this works really good. That's how I figured out to make my first cutoff tool, hot cut tool. I put that in a vise, put my steel over it, and just hammer right over it. If it's an old axe, you don't really care if you screw up the blade. So yeah, there's a lot of uses for a lot of this scrap. But yeah, let's if you have access to a scrapyard, check it out. It's dirt cheap. I found some insane stuff there. I found my anvil there. I found tongs there, blacksmithing tongs, big ones, small ones, tons of tools. Really, I love going to that place. I hope it opens soon. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Till next time.